Let's chat. So on the first one, raise your hand, agree or disagree. Somebody tell me what you got. Okay, agreed for what? Why? Okay, we're multiplying by 2 each week. You put agree. Okay. So let me ask you this though. Looking at this equation down at the bottom. Hey, okay, thank you. All right, looking at this equation down at the bottom, we've got that 3 times 2 raised to the x. If we plugged in 2 into this equation, somebody in their calculator, type this junk in and tell me what you get. 12. You get 12. Is that what they got here? No. So I'm going to put disagree. Yes, I see your point on it's multiplying by 2, but we got to make sure that the equation works. Yeah? Okay, so we're going to say disagree because the equation doesn't work. Doesn't. Wow. Okay, work. Wow, that handwriting. Atrocious. Okay, on the next one, do you agree or disagree? Raise your hand. Yes. Agreed. Good. Okay, why do you agree?
Because when you use the equation, it matches up.
Okay, so when we use the equation, it matches up. That means that if we plug in, we're not going to plug in 2006. What are we going to plug in? 1. Okay, so we're going to get 6,000 times 0.85 raised to the first power, and that would give us 5,100, right? Everybody good? Questions on those two? Okay. On C, what'd you put? Agree. Why? Because what? Okay. So we're doing 10 times 2/3 x. If we plug in 1 into that equation, we're going to get the correct answer, right? You could make like a little table for this, and then it shows you, hey, it's decreasing by 2/3 each time. Okay. All right. On D, how do you pronounce that name? What is this name? Somebody say it. Mirar, I don't know how to say it. M-I-A-R. She's M-I-R-A-R-I. How do you say that? Say it again. Mirari? My, I don't know. Okay, I've never seen that name before. Anyways, so she has 1,898 followers on TikTok. Her number of followers is decreasing at a rate of 5% each week. Here is the function. Do you agree with that function? You say agree? What? Okay, so she's decreasing, but remember, this is our expression, right? If I plug in 1 into this equation, somebody type that into your calculator and tell me what you get. I type that into my calculator, what you get? It's like 200 something. Tell me what you get.
2,449.
Not too good. 244 point what? 0.9. Is that dropping by 5%? Going from 4,000 to 244. That doesn't make sense, right? Remember yesterday how we talked about we have this equation that we use with me? So we're going to do 4898 times 1 minus 0.05 raised to the t. So we should have gotten 0.95 in the parentheses instead of 0.05. Does everybody see that? Okay, so that should be disagree. And our equation should have been this guy. Gucci? All right. If you learn nothing else from Algebra 1, this is the thing to know, okay? Compound interest is what you're going to deal with, like with your investments in like house payments and car payments. Everything really kind of revolves around this compound interest, okay? So looking at this equation, and yes, I will always give you this equation, the initial or the principal balance is going to be that P. Principal is going to be P. The R is going to be our rate. The N is the number of times something is compounded in a year. Hey, friend. Oh, yay. And then T is going to be the number of years. Again, I give you this formula, but I don't tell you what each letter means. Does that make sense? You got to know what those mean. Now, in can be different depending on the adverb that is used. In language arts, what is an adverb? What is an adverb? It's an adverb. Do you remember? Okay, looking at the words on the board, annually, semi-annually, quarterly, monthly, daily, what do they all have in common? Looking at the words. So here it is again. At the very end, what do they all have in common? They have an ly at the end. Okay, so majority of your adverbs are going to have ly. An adverb is an adjective that describes a verb. Okay, so it describes the verb. It's how frequently you do something. Okay, so like quickly, quietly, silently, etc. Okay, so if I have something annually, how many times a year does that happen? Once. Okay, so in is going to equal 1. If I have a semi-annual sale, how many times does that happen in a year? Twice. Okay, so n is going to be 2. Quarterly, how many times does that happen in a year? 4. How many months are there in a year? And daily, 365. If you didn't know these numbers, I would write them down because I cannot tell you them when you get on to the mastery checker quiz or test or whatever. Oh, here we got a problem. It says find the final amount of a $500 investment after 8 years at 7% interest compounded monthly and daily. Okay, so first, I want you to recognize the fact that we are dealing with an ly word. So we're going to write down the formula. The first thing that we're going to want to do. And our interest or our initial investment is 500. Okay, so we're going to say 500. We're going to multiply it times 1 plus our rate is 7%. Yesterday, we talked about how to change that to a decimal. So to change it to a decimal, we're going to move it 2 places over and put a 0 out front. So that's going to be 0.07. Monthly, how many months are there in a year? 12. So 12 is going to go in for our in. And notice how I put it on the bottom and then in the exponent as well. And then how many years are we dealing with? 8 years. Okay. Now, I need you to practice putting this in your yellow calculator for your mastery check. That's the hardest part of this. It's not plugging it in. It's actually typing it physically into the calculator. Be careful. You need to put parentheses around this fraction and this exponent. Okay, notice how that's not in the original equation. Okay, take a moment, type this in, and then tell me what you. Okay, so I got 873.91. If you did not get that, then you need to retry it. Okay. Now, I don't know about you, but I like free money. So what I mean by that is all I did was I took this $500, I put it into something, and then in 8 years, I just made $373.91. I didn't do anything. All I did was invest. Okay. So you can make free money essentially if you do the right investment. Okay. All right, go ahead and try B. The only thing that we're going to change is the in. We're going to change it to daily. So that's going to be 365. So go ahead and take a moment, type this into your calculator, and then tell me what you get. Say it again. 2,000. Okay. What was my interest rate turned into a decimal? 0.093, right? Okay, now here's the trick part in this. Do you see how it says 18 months? Okay, how do we convert months into years? Let's think about it. Divided by 12. Okay, so we've got 18 months in total. If we divide it by 12 months, what does that give us? 1.5 years. Does everybody see how I did that? Okay, you have to pay attention to the units that they give you. Okay, so we're going to put 1.5 up in that exponent. Quarterly, that's going to be how many times a year? 4. Okay, so we're going to put 4 in that exponent, and then we're going to say 1.5. Take a moment, type this into your calculator. Remember to use your parentheses. If you don't use your parentheses, it's going to goof you up. Okay? Okay, 2,295.73. Remember, we're going to round to 2 decimal places. We're going to round to 2 decimal places. Everybody good? What do you mean? It should be 2,295.73, not 72. Yeah, because we're going to round up because of that third number. Mm-hmm. What's up? You always move it 2 decimal places over. But yes, you divide it by 100. Yep. All right, try B. On B, what are we going to change? That's the only thing that we're going to change if we're talking annually. The 4 to a 1. So we're going to say 1 plus 0.093 divided by 1. We're going to raise it to the first power. We're going to multiply it by 1.5. Okay, so you should have gotten 2,285.39. Okay. One thing I want you to notice, the difference between the quarterly and the annually. Which one do you make more in? Quarterly. So the more times it's compounded in a year, the more money you're going to make. Does that make sense? Okay. Now it's only like $10 of a difference, but $10 is like a Chick-fil-A sandwich, right? So like, I'll take that. So keep in mind that this is only in a year and a half, and we've already made almost $300. Okay. So again, investment, definitely important. Cool. And if you can do it earlier enough, you can retire early. Okay. So really quick, here's another one. This is continuously compounded. Okay, so notice how I used a different adverb. Continuously compounded. Okay, so if it ever says continuously, this is the formula we're going to use. Okay, P is still going to be our initial. R is still going to be our rate. T is still going to be years. Now, let me introduce you to the E part. E is just a fancy way to say a number. You know how we have pi? And pi is like that 3.14 and it keeps going on forever, right? The same thing is happening with E. E is like 2.71, blah, 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 blah. Okay? So E is just a fancy number. You use it often in finances. I used to know exactly what the number was and why it was that way. But all you need to know is that E represents a number. And on your calculator, in order to type it in, you're going to hit the second button. And then you're going to hit the LN button. Second button, and then the LN button. Okay, and then that E pops up. Cool. All right, so looking at our problem, it says you deposit $2,000 in an account that pays 4% annual interest compounded continuously. Again, there's that word, continuously. That tells me right there, we're going to use this formula. If it says any other adverb, then it's compound interest. If it's continuously, we're going to use this guy. So we're going to plug in 2,000 our interest rate, we're going to move that decimal place over twice. So that's going to be 0.04. How many years are we investing? For 3. So take a second, type this in. Type this into your calculator. Again, the hardest part about this is actually typing it in. Oops. Okay, so I got 2,254.99. Is that what you got? Yeah. Okay. On the next one, it's 5.5 years. So the only thing that we're going to change is we're going to type in a 5.5 instead. Yeah, same thing, except you just change that number to 5.5 for the years. So like that. Yeah, come here. If you don't have a yellow calculator, I would grab one so that you can practice. Okay. Tell me what you got. 50? 1.5. Okay. Cool. Okay. So you deposit 5,000 and it says continuously. We're going to raise it to the 0.035 and multiply it times 2. What did you get? Point what? 4. Is that what you got? Yay. Again, these don't have to be difficult. You just got to know which formula to use. That's the hardest part. And then typing it in. Don't make a mistake with typing it in. No, I'll give you the formula. They'll stay on. Yep. And they're also on your formula sheet for the EOC too. Cool. Okay. So tomorrow there's one that's over compound interest. There's one that's over simple interest. That's it. Okay, well, there's 3 questions. There's one that's increasing, one that's decreasing, and then compound interest. And again, we'll cover that tomorrow as well before you take it. So going back to simple interest. So go ahead and look at, you are going to use the simple interest. That's the one that we talked about yesterday. So that's a times 1 plus or minus r raised to the t. Okay, you're going to create it for all of the word problems. So you're going to do all the word problems. I'm going to give you about 7 minutes to do it, and then we're going to check our work, and then we'll talk about the tables. Okay, you should be able to do word problems and tables and create that equation. Okay, so go ahead and take a moment. Okay, so on the first one, we've got 500 as our initial, and then we've got 8% each year. We've got to change that percent to a decimal. So we're going to take 8%, move the decimal over twice. So that's going to be 0.08. This will be 500, and we're increasing. So this is going to be 1 plus 0.08 raised to the t. We're going to see what I did there. Okay. Well, this is just asking me to create a function to find any ring after the given year. But yes, if it asks for us for 20 year, yeah, then we'll plug in. So, no, just t. Yes, that's correct. Okay, on the next one, we're gonna have 500, and it says doubles. Okay, so this is the one that's a little weird. We're gonna say 2 raised to the x. The reason why we're just gonna say 2 is because if you're doubling, then you're taking what you're getting, and then you're adding 100%. So watch this. If I say 1 plus 100%, what's 1 plus 1? That's why this 2 is right here. Did we see that? Okay. On the next one, it says an antibiotic working in the body is decreasing the bacteria by 92% every day. Okay. So if a portion of the body starts with 500, we're going to say 1 minus 0.92, and then we're raising it to a t. Okay. Biggest mistakes that people make is they don't change it to a decimal, or they don't say 1 minus or 1 plus. Okay. Questions on those 3. We okay? Okay. A bank account starts with 5 quadruples. What is a quadruple?
3, 4,
4. Tripling is 3, right? Quadruple is 4. And then we're going to raise it to the x. Good? Okay. In 2011, a scientist released a pioneer deer population into a forest. 5 deer were introduced, so that's our initial. And then we're increasing by 3%. So 1 plus 0.03 raised to the t. We okay on this? Questions? These are like what you're going to see on your mastery check. There's an increasing one, there's a decreasing one. Simple? Okay. Let's look at the tables, because there's always some rando table. So let's go through one, and then I'll let you do the other ones. So what is our initial? And then what are we going up by each time? Okay, if you didn't know that, just based off the fact that you can look at it, you can take the second one and divide it by the first. So 20 divided by 4 is what? That would be our rate. So like on the next one, that's what you're going to do. Okay, so go ahead and try those 3. Okay, so you should have gotten 92 times, what was our rate here? 1.5. And then we're going to raise it to the x. Now, hey, make sure that 1.5 works for each thing. So you take 138, multiply it times 1.5, you should get that next number, right? Okay, if it doesn't work, then it's not exponential. On the next one, what was your initial? Don't say 15. Okay, and that's because we're going up by 3. So if we could divide by 3, we would get 5 here. So our initial is 5. You told me we're going up by 3. We're going to raise it to the x. Good. Okay. On the next one, it's a little tricky. Notice how we're going up by 2s for the x's. And in the past, we've been going up by 1s. So this is a difference of 4. We're going to take 4 and divide it by 2 to get our rate. And then our initial is 5. Did we see it? Does that make sense? I know that one's a little weird. Okay. So you're going to work with a partner, and you're going to work together. This is dealing with simple interest still. Simple interest is the a times 1 plus or minus the r raised to the t. Okay, so we're still dealing with simple interest on these. You're going to work with a neighbor, and y'all need to come up to a consensus on these. Okay, you're going to do the front and the back. Okay, side note, if you haven't been working on your review guide, you should probably be working on it at home. Okay, it doesn't do you any good for me to just tell you the answers for the review guide. Okay, so make sure that you're working on that at home. If you get this done early, you can be working on that, but go ahead and start working with a neighbor on that.